Today we're going to talk about investing, especially whether buying Pokemon products at MRSP is the best strategy and the pros and cons of it. So previously in some of my videos, I sometimes mention try to get prices Pokemon products at MRSP or lower, and that's really just a general theme. And what's really the logic behind it? Whenever it comes to Pokemon investing, you aim to minimize your cost basis. And generally that means trying to get a product at a cost basis that is as low as possible. You have to understand, in the past, MSRP was actually not considered a good deal. You could get Pokemon products below MSRP. However, because of the recent rise in demand of Pokemon products, MSRP is almost the lowest that you can get in for a particular Pokemon product. It's the floor. Because when products release, it's basically going to be out of stock within a short time period. And when I refer to products, I refer to the popular products. Booster boxes, ETBs, collection boxes, UPCs. Those are sold out almost immediately. Yes, you still get other accessory products that still remain in stock. I'm referring to the booster boxes, UPCs, and ETBs. And for most of those products, MSRP is probably the lowest you can ever get for a product. So here comes my logic why I go for getting products at MSRP. So the pro is it limits your cost basis and it instills some form of discipline. If you manage to get in products at MSRP, especially at launch, there's a lower chance that you will make a loss compared to getting in at a higher price, just in general. And that is why I try to get in products at MSRP, and if I miss it, if I don't get a product at MSRP, you know what, I'm okay with missing out. And I'll just wait for the next product or wait for reprints or the next set to come out and buy in at MSRP. That's sort of been my thought process in the past. And is it the way to go? I mean, the pro is firstly you're getting a low cost basis, instills a discipline, because if you can't resist the temptation and the FOMO, what can happen is you see a product is really hot, you would just buy it at any price, and you just say, oh, it's going to go up higher. So this then brings us down to two sort of main forms of investing. We've talked very loosely. There's value investing, where you focus on a long-term potential and intrinsic value, and momentum investing, which is driven by short-term price trends. Momentum meaning, if it's going to go up, if it goes up, it means there's still some momentum that's potentially going to push it up further, and you're going to make gains. So just based on those two schools of thoughts, I would probably put myself on the value perspective. But again, value wise, yes, you focus on the value, but again, value doesn't mean MSRP. For example, let's take a look at Destined Rivals. If you got in at MSRP, which is $160 upon release, right now you're doing very well, okay? But if you didn't, you're like, okay, fine, I'll skip it. And there was a chance. Let's go back to a year. So this product hasn't even been launched for a year, and that's the crazy part of this hobby. So upon release, it was already $350. Okay, so if you weren't able to get in at pre-market, pre-order prices, you probably would have FOMO'd at $350, which I would definitely not recommend. Which is also what I didn't do. Okay. Imagine going in at $350. Okay. Just because you FOMO'd, you fear you're going to miss out. And then look at all this. Upon release, and this happens almost all the time, upon release, all products drops. Because supply comes out. So when a crash comes to mind, or when a huge supply exceeds demand, they'll be the first to panic sell. And yeah, you'll be a floor chaser. The price will just go down further very quickly. So you see here, I went from 350 all the way down to 247. So yeah, you would have made a loss over there in the short term, but if you held, it would have gone up. So it all depends on your risk profile and your time horizon, etc. If you got in at 350, you're still doing pretty well right now, 448. Okay, but if you waited a bit, you probably could have gotten at 246. But nowhere along this line were you able to miss pre-orders and still able to get products at MSRP. Okay, so if you're on that school of thought that you definitely have to get stuff at MSRP, you miss pre-orders, you'll probably just miss this whole trend. Unless reprints come through and then you're able to get in products again, if you were in the right place at the right time. Because most likely, if it goes up on stores again, you most likely can't beat other investors in this market. Because people always have maybe faster internet than you, or they'll be more patient than you. They'll wait outside stores. So yeah, this is just a new market that comes in, and trying to buy stuff at MSRP is becoming more and more difficult. Happens locally, globally. That's just so difficult. But if you want to get in on the action of trying to get gains in the Pokemon market, if that is what you want, then you just gotta have to decide what is a price that you're comfortable with entering. To take this example, Destined Rivals, especially for strong set. For a weaker set, yeah, that's more debatable. For a strong set, hindsight 2020, 350 if you got in at launch, almost you're still up, but probably not the optimal. You probably want to wait for release, wait for that short pullback, and then get in. So maybe like a 200, and remember, this is just TCG Player. There's multiple areas where they're selling these products, so you gotta be patient. You gotta be on the lookout. You can look on eBay, your local card shops. You probably could have picked this up at close to $200. Probably not lower than that, but that was probably the market price back then. So I would say don't FOMO in upon release. Try to wait for release. Wait for a couple of, in this case, it was a few months, 2 months. Wait for that price to settle and then decide, okay, is this now a good time to enter? Then you could have probably entered at 200, 220 or 230 up to 240, and then yeah, it goes up. In that case, you wouldn't have missed most of the action. But in this case, if you were just full MSRP, yeah, you're gonna miss out. And is that okay? Are you okay with missing out? Because if you are okay, that's also okay. This Pokemon investing isn't for everyone. And the thing with Pokemon investing, you gotta adapt to the market, because no one really knows what the future holds. The most important thing is you gotta be comfortable with your investments, and it has to be in line with your risk profile and risk tolerance. If it's in line and you're not spending money that you're not willing to lose, then it's okay. So all it comes down to is MSRP investing may not be the most optimal strategy for you now. I mean, I'm also reflecting on this, and it may not be the most optimal for me now. So I have shifted my strategy. Some strategy could have worked in the past, in line with your risk profile, but in the current market, if it's still within your risk profile and risk tolerance, you may want to adjust it a bit. And I'm also thinking about adjusting my strategy somewhat. For example, when a new set comes out, the first prize is always to get products at MSRP. Okay, lower if possible, but that's almost impossible these days. So get products at MSRP. This is the ideal world. Okay, you get whatever you can afford based on your budget upon release of these Pokemon products at MSRP. Okay, then you get your products, and then you don't really care what the market does within that reprint cycle. You wait for reprints to come through, be patient. Reprints come through, maybe there's going to be another order coming out, another chance for you to get prices at MSRP. Then you get in again, you load up your position. And if it doesn't, then you're okay. You just focus on the next time when prices come back to MSRP. And then you just ride the wave until the reprint cycle ends. And that's when you can evaluate, okay, maybe it's time to get out of a few products and then use those funds to get in to the new sets at MSRP. And you do that along and along. So that's really the ideal case. Now I probably will be shifting my strategy somewhat, because nowadays, even locally, when you enter pre-orders, based on your budget, say you want to get, let's say for instance, 1 case of booster boxes. Okay, you want to get 1 case of booster boxes. But because there's not enough supply, you only get 1 booster box. Or worst case, you get no booster boxes. Okay, what do you do in that case? So comes out, okay, you got 1, but you wanted 6. So initially, based on your budget, you wanted to get a case, almost as your position, but you only got 1. So okay, that's fine. Let's say, okay, then that's okay. In this case, you may want to shift your strategy somewhat now. Okay, you weren't able to get the 6 booster boxes upon release at the price that you want. Okay, so then you're just gonna have to look at the market. So for me, I think there will be a couple of points along the reprint cycle where you can pick up prices at a better price, and it will be most likely higher than MSRP. So firstly is definitely don't FOMO in upon release, because upon release there's going to be tons of products. People are going to start selling this. You're going to reiterate, there's so many investors right now in this Pokemon market. So upon release there will be a lot of selling pressure, and that's where you want to see, okay, maybe you can get in around there. Normally I would wait for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, up to 2 months, check for price to settle, and then decide, okay, if this is a strong set, there's going to be a demand for it. And then maybe dollar cost average your position. So say the same example, you wanted 6 booster boxes, you got 1. Okay, buy 1 booster box. Okay, and then look again, see what the prices is, and if it comes down again, get in again. So you see, you're still staying with the same exact budget. Okay, but you're, instead of the ideal situation where you could have gotten your case at the very beginning, now you're just looking at the same dollar or rand amount, just spreading it across the cycle. Okay, so in the end, you still spending the same exact amount aligned with your budget. So instead of 6, where you could have gotten 6 at MSRP, maybe because of the higher price, you only managed to get 4 or 3. But that's still okay, as long as you still stayed within your strategy somewhat. Okay, and now you still have a position. And then you also gotta pay attention to the trend in Pokemon, because right now it seems that things are just going up, but that cannot last forever. There will come a time where there will be some corrections, and you gotta be prepared for that. So definitely don't overspend, and that's definitely not the optimal strategy to apply in this market, because you gotta think about, if a crash does happen, will you be okay? Say your product goes to 0. That's the extreme case. There's a very low chance for that to happen. If products goes back to 0, will that impact you? If the answer is yes, then you're probably a bit overweight in Pokemon, and you gotta evaluate your strategy. If the answer to no is that, then it doesn't really concern you. If it goes up, it's, you're happy. If it goes down, it doesn't affect you. You're able to wait. You're able to wait it out, because based on past cycles, yes, there'll be corrections, but then overall the trend is going upwards over the long term. So if that is your belief, then these price movements shouldn't phase you. Okay, but that's the extreme case. What if products come back to MSRP and you're applying this newly adjusted strategy, which is try to get stuff at MSRP at the beginning, but if you can't, follow the market trends, try to get in a couple months after release where there's that correction, to get in your positions at certain points in time. Yes, you'll make a loss in the short term, but your loss isn't as big if you FOMO'd in. You get what I'm saying? So it's really all about adjusting your strategy, and I think my adjusted strategy will allow me to still have a position into these new sets, especially in strong sets, which you really want to get in at, but also not have too much of a loss in case prices do come back to retail, back to MSRP. And for me, I always stay within my, well, I try, but I am getting better at it, at trying to stay within budget. And I know exactly how much I want to spend on a particular product, and I will not go over. So say I prepared a budget for a case of booster boxes, and it didn't plan out. I'll still spend that exact same amount. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope that made some sense. I'll catch you next one.